Okay, so I'm here to do another Akathisia video. It's been 8 months since I've done one, and things have changed. Things have gotten better. I have to, I'll admit that things have gotten better in a lot of ways. Some things have still stayed the same, but sometimes my sensory perceptions are still off. So that, even though it's gotten better, it's still there. I have these brain blips that I can't really explain to anybody well enough, like I can't verbalize them enough to explain exactly what they are, but they're just these weird, sort of like when I'm thinking about things at times, they feel like a jolt is the only way I can explain it. And it's almost like it's attached to a thought, but the thoughts are just random thoughts. I was typing in my email address the other day, and I remember saying the letters to my email address in my head, and that jolt sort of came, and I was just, and it's sort of just kind of startling. It does seem to be connected to thought. I don't know what it is, but it's only started since the medication issues. I'm down to 8 milligrams of Paxil now. I stayed at 10 milligrams of Paxil for a year trying to stabilize, and I never really did. Like, the waves and windows were really bad. Since I went down to 8, the cog fog has really gotten better. Like, that has gotten so much better. Other people have said this too, that like their cog fog is so bad that they feel like their memories are really far away, and I had that too. I would feel like I would do something an hour ago and I would feel like it was a year ago. So that has gotten a lot better. Sometimes I still get the feeling that so if I go to the store and I come home, sometimes I still feel like, oh my gosh, what if I'm still at the store and I don't realize it. And it's a really quick flash of a thought, and it's scary, but I also know that I'm not the only one who has that. That's part of depersonalization and derealization, and that's part of the medication issue. What I've really been going through lately, and I think this is a part of healing, and I'm sorry, I'm probably gonna cry because it really brings up so many emotions, but the pain, the mental pain, like, I've never felt anything so painful in my life. It is horror. It is a horror. It's something that I can't even describe. It's indescribable pain. When somebody tells you that it's indescribable, believe that there are no words. It's almost like, it was almost like the closest thing I can get to it was like when you have a nightmare and you're in the nightmare and you're really afraid, and it's like this horror, and it's sadness, and it's scary all at the same time. It's kind of like being in a nightmare. That's the only way I can explain it. But I'm often like left wondering, why did this happen to me? Because I was on Paxil for almost 10 years at 10 milligrams, and I was doing great. And I thought, it's been 10 years, it's time to get off this medication. It really did help me. It helped me through depression. It kept my anxiety attacks at bay. So maybe now I have the strength to try and do it on my own and just see a therapist and cope on my own. So when I got down to 5 milligrams, things got really bad. As I believe I said this in my first video, things got really bad, and I went back on it, And at 10 milligrams, I wasn't feeling better. And it didn't occur to me that I had been at about I had been about 7.5 milligrams for about 6 months during my taper. So I was taking a long time to taper. It didn't occur to me that 10 milligrams may have been too much. And I think that's what it was. I went back to 10 milligrams and it wasn't working. I never thought it was too much. I thought it wasn't enough. And so the day after, on 20 milligrams of Paxil, it was horrible. It was horrible. I never knew that anything could cause so much mental anguish. I never knew. I never in a million years imagined anything could be that horrible. And so now and it doesn't happen with everybody, apparently, from all the research I've done. It's rare that this happens. Long-term antidepressant use and then reinstatement and adverse reactions, and you'll find no literature and journal articles at all, no scholarly journal articles at all on it. I've only met a few people online that this has happened to. Even when you look at the communities, there's really not thousands and thousands of people. There's a few hundred of people, but not necessarily who had the same exact reaction as me, where I was on a medication long term, did really well, and then tried to reinstate it and have this unbelievably horrific reaction to it. And now I wonder, there are certain things I think about, I have to take my daughter to her grandmother's tomorrow. I have to drive on the highway, and it's not that I'm afraid. It's not a fearful thing. It's different. It's this dread, but it's not anxiety. I've always had anxiety and I've always had depression. These feelings are just so different. I abruptly stopped my other video because somebody came in. So, but to try to explain the feelings that I have, they're scary, yeah, but they're beyond that. They're beyond the panic, beyond the anxiety that I've always had my whole life. They're like just this yucky feeling, and I can't really explain it, but it's yucky. It's dread, it's fear, yeah, but it's also, I just can't explain it, but it's a bad feeling. It's just a bad feeling. And I don't know if it's like some sort of deep depression that I'm going into now, that the worst of the akathisia is over. It could be I have not had akathisia. I have not had any symptoms since August of this year. And we're now into December. And right around August, actually in October, is when I went from 10 milligrams to 8. And I went pretty quickly. But that's where my most of my gains have been from reducing that very quickly. It feels like I'm trying to stabilize now. The waves are not exactly the same. They're not as intense. They're still there. There's not akathisia, there's not movement, but there is buzzing. I feel like my whole body's vibrating. And I feel like I do have those feelings of dread and doom, but they come quickly and they go quickly. So when one comes, I have coping mechanisms, because I know that it's no longer like, oh my gosh, when is this? It's not going on for days and days and days. But I still get bedridden, I want to just lay in bed and not do anything. I want to wait for it to pass. So I have to force myself to get up and get out of the house and do normal things. But I am left with the why. Why did this happen to me? Because it is rare. It's rare. It's not common. So why did it happen to me? Because I've always lived my life with this ideas of everything happens for a reason and God has control of everything. And the strangest thing is that before all of this happened, I remember thinking to myself, I want to get off of my Paxil, and I don't want to be afraid of anything anymore. I remember thinking that. I want to get off of, and I remember thinking, I'm just going to let go and give it to God. And months later, this all happened. And it makes me, I don't know if any of you are religious or not, but it makes me feel like I was abandoned by God, or he didn't hear me, and I don't know. It's just, I don't know, it's just scary, and it's just makes me think, like, why? There's a corner in my room over here, and there's these pictures hanging on my wall, and I just remember when I was at the worst of it, being in my room and sticking my head in the corner of my wall to try to block everything out. And I look at my pillow and I remember in the worst of my moments, sticking my face in my pillow and closing my eyes really tight and plugging my ears and just trying to survive 1 minute at a time. When I was at the worst of it, it was so bad I couldn't cry. It was almost like that deer in headlights. Like, oh my God, what is happening? I never knew anything could be so painful. I mean, I sit back and I wonder how I survived. And I didn't try any other medication. I went to a psychiatrist fully intending on getting on a new medication, and he said don't. And looking back on it, I think he said just reduce the medication you're on. We're not going to switch medications because then we end up on a merry-go-round. So I think he knew. I think he had some sort of experience with adverse reactions to previously tolerated medications. So I'm glad for that. But I still wonder why this had to happen to me. And I'm sure all of you out there watching this feel the same. Why did this happen to us? Now, I don't have the answers. I was a therapist. And I taught at a university. And I quit both of my jobs. I worked 60, 70 hours a week. I went from that to not being able to get out of bed and take a shower. Like, I was just, the only way I can explain it is I was so electrified inside that I couldn't move. I didn't have the constant pacing. I did have the urges to move, but it wasn't like that. It wasn't the same. Mine was different, and some other people's are too, where you do get this urge to move, but I had different urges. Like, I had an urge to contort my face. Like, I needed to constantly, like, move the muscles in my face. There was this desire to clench my face muscles and do that. Like, so I wasn't pacing, but I did have other things. Sometimes jerking my lower body. I had the urge to do that, to jerk my lower body. So I did have that. I know that I had akathisia. It was just very different because mine came and it just felt like every single cell in my body was vibrating. Like I was plugged in. Like every single thing was just bzzz. It felt like that. And it was horrific. It was horrific. So now I'm getting to a healing point, and I do want to cry. I cry a lot. I'm sad. I'm mad. I'm afraid of it coming back. I still have some of the nasty feelings. but I can force myself to go to the store now. Like, I used to look forward to going to the mall and shopping with my daughters and going to the park, and now it's like, okay, no, at one point that I liked doing those things, so you have to get up. I have to get up and go do them because now I can, like, I have that mentally. I can force myself. Do I enjoy it? No, no, no. I don't enjoy it. Do I want to stay at home in my bed? Yes, I do. I definitely do. But I also have an 11-year-old kid that I still have to be a mother to. So, and I have a significant other, and I'm a grandmother, you know, so I have family. So I have to go out and do those things. But uh, um, coming off the medication is helping. I don't think I'm going to try another medication because I'm worried that it'll do this same thing, and it's been 3 years. Part of the reason it's been so long is because when I went on the 20 milligrams of Paxil, I stayed on it for 5 months, wondering, like, oh my gosh, is this just start effects? But I should have known because this was horrible, and I should not have continued to stay on it feeling like that. That was stupid on my part, but I was so afraid. So I stayed on it for 5 months, and then I took a year to go from 20 milligrams to 10 milligrams because I was afraid that if I went too fast, I would have withdrawal effects and get double the akathisia that way, or withdrawal on top of the akathisia. Then I stayed another 1 year at 10 milligrams because I was trying to stabilize and thinking, okay, let's stop, let's stop changing the medication dosage and stay at 10 milligrams and see. And that after a year, which was just this past August, it was a year, in October, I finally got the courage to go down to 9, and then I quickly went to 8.5, and now I'm down to 8. And it's helping. I can tell that it's helping by reducing. But I don't think that another medication is going to help. I don't want to feel these horrifying feelings anymore. And but I want to keep going slow. And the reason why is because if I just stop taking it, I'm going to end up with akathisia on the other side of withdrawal, on the no more medication, and now I have akathisia because that happens too. So I'm going to just continue to taper very, very, very slowly. And so it wouldn't have been necessarily 3 years had I went so slowly with my taper. But I was just too afraid that it was going to be that I was going to end up on having worse akathisia or being worse by doing a too fast taper. I think that's all that I want to say for now. I still, these past few days, this past week and a half, I've not had any windows. It's all been a wave, but it's different. It's like during the day, it's weird. Okay, so like now during the day, I will have like 45 minutes to 2 hours of feeling completely normal, like just like my old self. And then, and this could be psychological because of what happened to me. It could be like a post-traumatic thing. I will remember how I felt, and I will get really upset. But not only that, sometimes I do feel that too. So, and that really upsets me. So it's like I get these vulnerable spots where I remember how I felt, and I can feel it again, or I can remember it, and it's really upsetting. So I think I'm healing. I don't think it would have taken 2 years had I just dropped from 20 to 10. I think that's what I should have done. If I was to give my old self advice right now, I would say drop that quick. Drop. Just go down to 15 and go down to 10. Don't wait. You're having an adverse reaction. Don't wait. Just drop. That's the advice I would give myself. But hindsight's 2020. I'm also have a theory that because Paxil works on cytochromes. If you know anything about those, they are metabolites, or they're metabolic enzymes that break down the medication. And Paxil is an inhibitor and a substrate of a certain cytochrome. And that cytochrome, when you have less of it, you break down things less, and and they slow your metabolism if you have less of them. And so I think because of the slowing down of my metabolism because of the Paxil, when I went to go back on it, it said, yeah, we don't have enough of that metabolite, so we're going to let this build up and not correctly break it down in your system. So I think that's actually what happened. I think that may be why people who are on antidepressants long term end up with such issues upon reinstatement, and too much serotonin and that synaptic cleft, because of a lack of being able to break it down properly, because of the years of it are, playing heavy on your liver. I had elevated liver enzymes and metabolic syndrome. So I gained 60 pounds being on this medication that I could never get off. But aside from that, my liver had elevated enzymes, meaning that it was working over time. And when it's trying to break down that Paxil the way it does with an alcohol, it does the same thing. It not only uses the enzymes that it does have in there to break down the Paxil, but Paxil also inhibits your liver from making those same enzymes that you need. So it would make sense that that's why. So I think it just accumulated in my system. It quickly built up, and my liver wasn't able to properly metabolize it. I think that's the biological reason. So I needed to just vent and get this out because nobody understands. It's hard. You can only type so much on message boards and everything before you're just sort of like, I need to cry and I need to vent and I need to talk and process. So thank you all for watching. Please, if any of you are struggling with the same and you have video links, I would be more than happy to watch them. Leave your links below so I can see. I just want, I want y'all to know that I know how you feel. I so know how you feel. And it's horrible. And the only thing that worked for me was chamomile tea, valerian tea. I should have said that. I wanted to say that too. Valerian tea has been helping. It tastes horrible. It smells like armpits. It's horrible, but it really does work. However, this is a big however. I noticed that the couple days, like if I drink it for a couple of days in a row, afterwards I'll start feeling bad. But it does, it activates GABA in the brain, so it floods you with GABA like alcohol or a benzo does, and it makes me tired. It helps me sleep. So just be careful with it. It can make you, I never felt worse like akathisia or anything like that. It just makes me a little depressed, a little more depressed than normal. So that's my only cautionary tale with that. Otherwise it really doesn't affect me. It's not like a benzo. It's not addictive. It's not, flooding your whole brain and calming everything down. It's very mild feeling, and I drink it in a tea so that I know exactly how much I can get, and I know that if I'm sipping it and if it starts to make me feel like in a way I don't want to feel, I don't have to take any more. I'm afraid of capsules now. I'm afraid of pills. I'm afraid of any kind of medication now. I'm petrified because of what happened to me. I was afraid to take Paxil when I first took it 10 years ago. And it was the only drug I ever took because I am medication phobia. Well, I'm 10 times worse now. So I'm even afraid of supplements and vitamins. I don't do any of them. I do take vitamin D. I need that. I have really low levels of that. So, but the valerian did help. Chamomile did help. So, and I still use it. And the sleepy time celestial seasonings. It's I use it, but you know, it doesn't stop anything, but it does calm me down and put me to sleep. So it doesn't make it go away. It doesn't cure anything. It's very temporary. You know, relief, I guess, is the only thing to help distract you. So, thank you all for listening. Sorry I sort of ranted on a little bit, but I really needed to. All right. Have a good weekend and Happy New Year.